You've probably never thought twice about hooking a fish. You cast the line, it bites, you reel it in. The fish thrashes around for a bit and then it stops, and you move on. But here's the question nobody really asks. Was that fish in pain? Not just reacting, not just struggling, actually feeling something? Because if the answer is yes, it changes a lot. For most of human history, we assumed fish couldn't feel pain. And honestly, the assumption made sense on the surface. Fish don't scream, they don't cry, their faces don't change, they're cold-blooded, they live underwater, they feel completely alien to us. So we wrote them off. We decided they were basically living machines. Input, output, stimulus, response. Nothing more. But science doesn't care about our assumptions. Let's start with what pain actually requires. Pain isn't just damage to the body. That's called nociception, the automatic detection of harmful stimuli. Almost every animal has that, even insects. Real pain is something more. It requires the nervous system to take that signal and process it consciously, to actually experience it as suffering. And for a long time, scientists argued fish simply didn't have the brain structure for that. The reasoning went like this. Humans and mammals feel conscious pain through the neocortex. Fish don't have a neocortex. Therefore, fish can't consciously feel pain. Clean logic, reasonable conclusion, except it turned out to be wrong. In 2003, a research team at the University of Edinburgh did something simple. They injected bee venom and acetic acid into the lips of trout, and then they watched what happened. The fish didn't just flinch and swim away. They rocked back and forth on the tank floor. They rubbed their lips against the gravel and the tank walls repeatedly. Their breathing rate increased significantly. They lost all interest in food, even when food was right in front of them. They acted in almost every measurable way, like animals in genuine distress. Now, skeptics pushed back immediately. They said this was just nociception, automatic reflex behavior, nothing more. The fish weren't consciously suffering. They were simply reacting to damage. A smoke alarm doesn't feel anything when it goes off, but the researchers had an answer for that. They gave some of the fish morphine, and every single pain behavior stopped. Here's why that matters. Morphine doesn't block nociception. It doesn't stop the body from detecting damage. What morphine does is block the conscious experience of pain. It acts on the brain, not the body, which means something in those fish brains was doing far more than detecting a signal. Something was processing it, experiencing it. Since then, the research has kept coming. Study after study, in species after species. Fish have been shown to avoid locations where they previously experienced pain, even when those locations had food and safer areas didn't. They're making a trade, comfort over survival. That is not a reflex. That is a decision. Fish also have nociceptors, the specialized nerve receptors that detect painful stimuli. Not just a few scattered around, hundreds of them, concentrated around their heads, their mouths, and their fins, exactly where evolution would place them if pain served a survival function. Researchers have also found that fish release the same stress hormones as mammals when injured. Cortisol levels spike, behavior changes, recovery takes time, the biological fingerprints of suffering are all there. So where does the science actually stand right now? Most researchers today agree that fish almost certainly experience some form of pain, not identical to what you or I feel, probably simpler, probably without the same depth of emotional suffering, but real enough to influence their behavior, their choices, and their survival. The debate in the scientific community has quietly shifted. It's no longer really about whether fish feel pain, it's about how much they feel and what we're supposed to do about it. And that second question is the one worth sitting with, because if fish experience pain, even a version of it, then we're talking about billions of animals feeling it every single day. In commercial fishing nets, hauling up thousands at a time, in fish tanks with no stimulation and no relief, on hooks, on lines, in holding containers, largely without anyone stopping to consider it. This isn't a call to action. You don't have to give up fishing. You don't need to feel crushing guilt every time you order from a seafood menu. But the question itself deserves something we haven't given it, which is just a moment. The fish on the end of your line can't scream. It can't make a face that you recognize. It can't tell you what it's experiencing. But for most of human history, we use that silence as permission to assume there was nothing to hear. The science is now telling us something different. The silence was never emptiness. We just weren't listening.